like to introduce a guest who was on here before, actually as an expert, Mr. Michael Palmer, who is the International Marketing Director for Leather Paragon.
Correct. That's right, yes.
Well, thank you once again for returning.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Well, I know, for expats who relocate here, whether it's for a short assignment, say 2 years, even 4 years, or those who come here, find that they love it, and end up staying here, there's always a transition period. Did you find that first few months or first few years difficult?
For me, it was the first 6 months that was just this fantastic holiday period that I don't mean holiday, I was working, but it was just the honeymoon period, put it that way, where everything was bright and shiny and it was just so fantastic to be here. And then after that, the next 6 months was just, what am I doing? Suddenly it was just everything just hit me full in the face, and I just had to sort of really think twice about what I'd done. But luckily, as I'd lived overseas, I'd lived in the States before, in America before, I lived in Germany before, so I knew the symptoms. I'd had those symptoms before. And although I had lived in America, you wouldn't think that going from England to America would be a culture shock, same language, or two nations divided by a common language, I think somebody once said, that it would be a culture shock, but it was. But I experienced the same thing there. But I think what I experienced here was much more extreme, because I'd gone, in previous moves, I'd gone into Western cultures, whereas going into an Asian culture, that difference was much greater than it had been before. So that second 6 months was really quite tumultuous, I should say.
well, I know, I've talked to quite a few people who have lived here, and it seems that everyone has their own coping mechanisms, whether it's to kind of isolate themselves among just the expat community and kind of pretend that they're not really in a Southeast Asia country, or those who really immerse themselves and become more Thai than Thais themselves.
Right.
What did you do?
I think I think what I did was just grit my teeth and got on with it, because I came here for personal reasons in the first place, because of meeting my partner. So I was really committed to that, committed to the relationship. And so it was a case of just get up every morning and just get on with it. I mean, you'll get through it, and it's going to happen that one day you'll wake up and you'll be perfectly happy. Or you'll wake up one day and you'll say, that's it, I'm out of here, I've had enough of it. But I was determined not to be one of those people that, as you say, there are two people that brush it off very quickly, or that immerse themselves so much that they become more Thai than Thai. I was determined not to sort of take that middle road and still retain, be me, and just do what I want to do, but also absorb the culture as I went along. And learn as I go along. Yeah.
Well, that probably is the best way. They always say, well, it is the Buddhist way, the middle path.
Absolutely, that's right. Yeah, nothing in the extreme.
Well, looking at the professional side, I know that we've had experts on here on how to deal with Thai staff or how to deal with Thai counterparts as well, and the differences in culture, obviously the differences in language and the challenges that comes up with. You've been quite successful here. What are your secrets to success? I mean, getting along in a different,
Having a company that has two Thai partners that can do most of that for me, and I don't have to do all of the direct Thai bit, because it is from a language point of view, obviously it's difficult. I mean, I do speak the language, but barely, and just enough to get by. In the factory, it's a very limited vocabulary, so I can actually talk to the people in the office or in the workers, but it's a very limited vocabulary, so that's not too bad. But I sort of insulate myself a little bit away from that, because I have my two other business partners are Thai, so I'm there is a barrier there in that respect. So that makes life a lot easier for me in that respect. But then there are times when I do actually get involved, and I do, because it's a project or it's something like that, and we'll go together, like myself and one of my Thai partners will go on sales calls, or we'll go to meet people. So the both of us will go as a tag team.
What have you noticed? Your time in the U.S., your time in Germany. Have you noticed any different in style and in the types of business or in the style of business?
Oh, I think the style of business is dramatically different. It's dramatically different, I think it's the thought process which is just completely different. I think we're the two cultures we're aiming for the same goal, but we're thinking about it from completely different angles, or approaching it from completely different angles. And actually that works really well when you have a mixed office like we do, because we learn from each other. Because I'll often say, oh, I never really thought about it like that, because it's the Thai way of thinking about things. And my partners will, not quite so often, say, oh, I never thought about it like that, because it's the Farang way of approaching things. So we're heading towards the same thing, but we're looking at it in different ways.
Well, that's a good way to think about it. Not that you're actually have competing ideas, but you're just having different approaches to the same solution.
Well, because in business, I mean, basically what we're trying to do is make money at the end of the day. So, so I mean, that's the goal that drives us. But apart from that, it's just what we're looking to get out of the company, where we want to drive the company, the direction in which the company wants to go. Those are common goals. But merging the two cultures, I think, is helpful, because we're seeing it, as I say, from two different ways and adding different ideas.
Well, looking at, especially with, we have the AEC coming up in just a few years, and obviously your products are not just for local consumption or local use, they're looking at international buyers as well. Do you see Thailand, with your experience here and your experience overseas, do you see Thailand as prepared to compete regionally and internationally?
I think there's still some way to go. There's still, from an organizational point of view, and it needs a change, just a different mindset of the top-down mindset. I think what we're used to in the West, I think, is that we're used to working as a team, and the team will bring to the table all of the ideas, and everybody's idea is respected, or at least listened to, and you put all those ideas together, and then you come up with a final solution or a final product. Whereas here, the big difference, and the biggest difference I think for me to get used to, is the top-down approach. Is that they say, this is what's got to be done, and everybody sitting around the table goes away and does that. And you're not allowed to actually, obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but this is one of the main way in which I perceive things anyway. And I think that needs to change in order because there's a tremendous amount of creativity in Thailand. I mean, in my business, and it really needs a lot of promotion. So I think it needs to, and just getting ready for the merger of all the countries. Looking at the experience of what's happened in Europe, I think we should take a step back, or Asian countries should take a step back and sort of learn from what's been done there and say, well, maybe we can look at it in a different way, or learn from their mistakes anyway.
Sure. I know we try not to be political on this show, but obviously politics play into it no matter where you are. And through the years here, I'm sure you've seen your share of ins and outs, as it were. For foreigners, for expats here who just don't understand, I guess, the Thai way of doing things, whether that's in a professional or even a governmental, have you had any difficulties, or do you have any advice in trying to, I guess, not only understand, but trying to just go with the flow? I know.
Yes, I think the thing is, don't believe everything you see. I think a lot of people and I think we know what we're talking about, the sort of the insurgents that have happened and caused and put people off coming to Thailand. And I think what happens is those things, as serious as they are, they do tend to get blown out of proportion. And it gives the impression that the entire country is in shutdown, is in lockdown, and it's a dangerous place to come to, and there are snipers lurking behind every door or something like that. And it's really not like that. I mean, we know from experience that it was confined to two cross streets, and that was it. But it caused us personally financial damage, because that was the time when we had one of our trade fairs on. So everybody was looking at the press and seeing what was going on. The foreign reporters were saying, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. Everybody was thinking, oh gosh, the whole country is just about to implode completely. I mean, I drove to the office perfectly normally every day. I mean, I didn't see anything going on. I mean, life went on as normal. I went to the same restaurants in the evening. I did everything as normal. So I think the best thing is just to do more in-depth research rather than look at things on the surface level, which I think is what people which people tend to react to more.
Yeah, and especially for those who only see Thailand from the media, obviously the media is going to run with stories which are sensational, which grab the headlines.
Well, what sells? Exactly. Yeah.
Well, one last question before you go. You've been here 13 years?
I think it's 13. I don't know. I think something like that. Yes. Yeah.
Do you intend to live here another 13?
As long as this keeps painting, yes, I think so. Yes, I hope so.
For those who are not coming here, let's say temporarily, who intend to make Thailand their home, any advice for them?
Oh gosh, give it time. I think that's the only thing. Is actually give it time. It is a culture shock. And even though I have been here 13 years, I always say to friends and probably joke with friends, it's a continuing culture shock. Because Thailand is a very dynamic country. It's a rapidly developing country. So I mean, you talked about politics earlier. I mean, that's changing the whole dynamics of the country in just the short time I've been here, and that's changed the whole sort of demographics of the country. So stick with it. Just be patient. Give it some time, because it really is. It's a great place to live. It really is. Excellent. I'm glad I'm here.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for joining us once again. And
thank you.
Best of luck with your endeavors, and hopefully have you back on the show sometime in the near future.
I'd love to come back. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, for you at home or wherever you are, don't go away, because we have a lot more coming up on So This is Thailand.
สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to Thai Ways. I'm Pon Jacobson. This week, we would like to invite you and your friends to sit down as we introduce you to one of Thailand's most favorite way of life. The saying one eats to live becomes for the Thai, one lives to eat. And that's because in general, the Thais love to eat. It's our favorite pastime. We eat at meals time as well as between meals. So when you visit a Thai home, one of the first questions you'll be asked is กินข้าวหรือยัง which means have you eaten yet? Thailand has been introduced to the use of utensils approximately 100 years ago during the time of King Chulalongkorn. Before that, and still do sometimes, we use the most basic and practical utensil man has, his hands. In the past, dining tables were not necessary, as the meal would be served on a mat or on a clean cloth. We would gather around in a circle among the family, and sometimes friends too. The food laden in the middle. And of course, a bowl of fresh water will be set aside, so if anyone feels like washing their hands, they can do so without having to walk down to the nearest canal or river bank. Nowadays, using our hands may be inappropriate when dining out, but there are some exceptions. In a real Thai restaurant, it's not odd to see people eating with their hands, whether to tear the chicken apart, or to roll the sticky rice, or to put the lap or nam tok in a fresh vegetable and put it in your mouth. Now, if you have been in Thailand for a while, you'll notice that there are foods and food stalls available 24/7. But where? Let's skip the obvious convenience stores, because there's so much more along the street of Bangkok. The variety of food is amazing, and is not always spicy food only either. Your local vendors would be selling grilled pork on a stick, flattened and grilled squid, the famous pad thai, wonton, pork or crab dumplings, or something as exotic as fried insects. Our advice? When in Thailand, don't always eat what the locals eat, because they have a better tolerance their type of food than you do. Rather, go by your gut feeling and choose vendors that look clean and order only freshly cooked food. The most common cause of Bangkok belly? The ice in your drink. Stay away from them. And if you want to drink something cold, just reach for the bottle in the fridge. Apart from that, enjoy Bangkok's 24 hours of kitchen opening. You just have to know where to go and what to eat. Located on Sukhumvit Road, Soi San Sabai may be the right place to go if you have a taste for a one-dish meal. Pad Thai, hoi tod, fried rice, and the likes. Everything you could ask for in a midnight hour, the vendors start packing up at 1 a.m. Next stop, seafood lovers should definitely check out Hoi Kwang Night Market. The area offers wide range of fresh seafood. The market stays open until 3 a.m. Dubbed as the market that never sleeps, Chok Chai Si is a place where night owls go for their last meal of their day, which is just before dawn. The neighborhood is so alive you could mistake it for an evening, not after midnight. For Thais, food is our pride and joy. We're so very proud of our cuisine. We love cooking. We love gathering friends around for a meal. But now, I am hungry. So plan your meals ahead so that each one is better than the before. Bon appetit from me, Bon Jacobson, and Thai Ways. สวัสดีค่ะ